Hey, family, happy Thursday. I am excited because we are just 2 weeks out from the new year, and everybody gets excited about the new year. It's a chance to reset goals, to renew minds, to reframe thoughts, to introduce new habits, to walk into new territory, all the language that we use in anticipation of a new year. And I want to brush your bubble a little bit tonight that while a new year may be coming, nothing changes until you program your mind and train your body to adapt to that change. And tonight's conversation, three conversations that I feel you should have with your team before the new year. I got to give you a little bit of science and a little bit of practicality so that you can have a fruitful conversation that will catapult 2022, not just for your team, but for the relationship between you and your team. So I'm excited to do that right after today's intro. So I'm Linnita Hosten. High school parents and high school community leaders, those who serve that high school group, they hire me to help students devise a post-high school productivity plan. And the goal is that the student that you love and or the student that you teach, lead, mentor, that they would be able to stand on their own 2 feet after graduation. The goal is them operating at a level of independence, which sometimes is the measure of our success as a parent, as a coach, as a mentor, whatever capacity you serve. So every Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, you meet me here for Teenage Thursday, where I give you very practical ways to help empower your team to stand on their own 2 feet after graduation. Tonight's topic, three conversations that I really want you to have with your team before the new year starts. I got to give you some background information before I give you the practicality, but I promise I will not keep you here long. If you are watching live, and I already saw that Linnell is here in the building. Linnell says, hey there. If you are watching live, go ahead and type it in so I know that you are here. Say hello. If you happen to catch the replay, you can type in hashtag replay. Let us know that you caught the information and however the information compels you, share that as well. If you're watching from YouTube, you can go ahead and hit that subscribe button because I am live every Thursday and I want you to be notified. Okay. Now that we got the formalities out the way, I'm a little hyped because I just finished a podcast interview and I was moved in a very fruitful way right for today's dialogue. Linnell said, yes, ma'am, she's ready. So listen, I thought today's conversation and topic is very fitting. At the top of New Year, we always want to reset. Let's get some new boundaries in play. I would like to see some new behaviors. I want to see a different version of you. Perhaps your child is aging. Likely they're aging to leave the nest soon. So up an ants in their responsibility levels and the level of communication that you're likely having with them increases in anticipation of them leaving. But before the new year starts, before we can engage in dialogue with them about the changes that we would like to see, or before they engage in dialogue with you about the changes that they're anticipating, I want to give you some science about how change works. Hey, Sierra. Sierra says, hey, I'm here. Thank you, sis, for watching. We appreciate you. So all of this started, by the way, earlier this year. I read the book Atomic Habits. We talked about how it does not take 21 days to form a habit. The habit formation is contingent upon the person and the type of habit that you're looking to instill. Bear with me, I gotta give you some context. The reason why I feel like the best way to ignite change, sustain change, to implement change is to identify the habit, which is the repeated performance of a thing to get a result. It's your body's memorization of you repeatedly performing a function. That's a habit. When you wake up in the morning, you brush your teeth habitually, hopefully. I wake up in the morning and I ain't gonna lie, I check my phone. That's habitual. My body has memorized that function. Sadly, I'm not proud about that. And I know you probably can relate. But it is through our habits over time that we develop behaviors. When I hired not a nutritionist, a trainer in 2017, I was with her for 3 months. She taught us nutrition. Obviously, she taught us how to utilize kinesthetics, basically how to use your body and other objects without going to a physical gym to work out, how salts, sugars, all those things worked. I only paid her for 3 months. That's how many weeks is that? 12 weeks. It was the habits that she infused that allowed me to still practice those things. I don't pay her anymore. Everything that she taught me, which is why I'm basically the same size, they've become habit. My body has memorized them. Everything down from grocery shopping to picking food, eating out socially. When I do indulge in alcohol, my body has memorized what functions are best it studied it. As you see, I get excited about this stuff. So let me scale back a little bit. How this relates to your team. Sometimes we get frustrated because we want to see change in them. We want to see them adapt new things. We want to see them grow in areas. And it can happen, but tonight's conversation is teaching you to teach them how that change starts. It does not start with journaling. It does not start with a vision board. It does not start with goal setting. It does not start with New Year's resolutions. And I want to add to the sentence, it does not start with those things, because what starts change is the identification of the habit that will allow you to achieve the goal. So we got to scale it back a little bit. So I feel as we are approaching the new year, we should be identifying the habits that we need to sustain, practice, implement to achieve the goal that we desire. Okay, so now that I gave you the science behind that, a little bit about how habits affect change and or don't allow change to happen. And if you desire to see change, how the conversation should be taught. I can give you the conversations that I want you to have with them. But I don't want you to have these conversations without having a teaching moment. You can play this video, or you can simply digest the information and convey it to them. If you want to embark upon change, let's identify the habit. I'm trying to think of an example really quickly of a habit. Okay, when a lot of parents are concerned when their children are in the car, are you wearing your seatbelt when I'm not there, when your friends are driving, when you are being driven by someone else other than me, are you wearing your seatbelt? That's a big thing for my sister too. I noticed that she wasn't wearing her seatbelt. So if that's the behavior, that's the goal I would like her to have. The habit has to be every time we're in the car, hey, did you put your seatbelt on? Keep saying it. Until it has to become extrinsic to intrinsic, where they actually value the action. What makes successful people successful is not always money, power, access. It's the habits that they've developed, that their body has memorized, that frees up their mental capacity to think on other things. That's why people meal prep. That's why people pick out their clothes at night. That's why people plan the day before the day starts. They plan it at night. So in the morning, you make less decisions so you can use your mental capacity in other areas. So if we know that science behind human behavior, as we're talking about change or wanting to implement change in our teens, these are the kinds of conversations that I want us to have. And I'm going to give you 3 of them today. Okay, the first one. I want you to ask them what went well this year. Give them the opportunity to brag on themselves. What went well academically, socially, the kinds of relationships that they've built and or sustained while coming out of a pandemic, since this was the first quarter of them being back in person learning. no matter what age they're in, and some of them are still in virtual learning formats if they're in college. What went well even in the midst of change? What went well within our relationship? What do you feel like we did well this year? Did we spend more time together? Did we talk through conflict? Did we give each other space? What went well? This is the sandwich technique that my therapist taught me, which is basically start with the good, put the little bit in there in the middle, the hard stuff, and then you finish it with, I'm using very light words, good, hard stuff, but you get the point. So starting off, like allowing them to be praised and to praise themselves about the things that have gone well. Did they pray consistently? Did they tithe? Whatever practices that are common in your household and in your classroom. What went well this year? Give them a chance to brag. They may have to think about it. They may also have to go through their phone. Sometimes photos trigger memories and moments in the year that we might have forgotten. So a good exercise might be, if you don't know, check through your phone. I know the iPhone allows you to categorize your years based on what you photographed and on videographed, what you had on video. So go back to year 2021 and look at like the photos and things, the places that they may have gone to or been invited to, and give them a chance to see what went well. I highly advise that you write this down because it's easy to forget the good. So easy. Write it down so it's something that they could be proud about and you can be proud about as the facilitator of the conversation. What went well in 2021? That's the first conversation that I want you to have. Give them a chance to praise themselves. Give you the opportunity to praise them for what you felt went well. You can affirm them on the areas that they may bring up that you might not even be thinking about. And you may be surprised at their perspective of what went well. And if they're communicating that to you and you're surprised, ask them why. Why was that well or good in your eyes? And if this language is not words you would use, put it in your own words. I don't know how you would speak. What are you proud about this year? What did you kill this year? No cap, what really what went up for you? I don't know, however you put it into language, but the goal is to get them to identify the good. That's the first conversation. The second one. This is the part that it gets a little in the nitty-gritty. I want you to ask them, what needs improvement? What areas need improvement? You can rephrase this. What are the opportunities? What opportunities do we have to make 2022 a better year for you? What areas? What would you like to see better in this upcoming year? I was on a podcast interview just now, and I mentioned to her, she asked me, what do I feel like is the greatest concern for the population that I work with as I'm meeting with them? What are they telling me is their greatest concern? And I shared with her, I collect this data all the time when I'm doing in-person events. I use this tool called Mentimeter for my live events, and it allows me to capture comments and that sort of thing during my keynote. One of the questions I always ask is, what are the words you needed to hear as a child? Typically, I'm keynoting to college age groups. I take that data and I give it back to the audiences that I work intensively with, which are typically high school students and are those who serve them. The data, all of them, very commonly, I wish I would have heard words like, everything is going to be okay. I wish I would have heard words like, you are enough. I wish I would have heard words like, I got your back. These are very simple things, typically related to all in the family of being affirmed, being seen and heard. When you ask the question, what are the areas of improvement? What would you like to see in this new year? You are giving your team the opportunity to critically think and assess the areas that need development that they can self-identify. That's the level of accountability that we want to teach them. You can write this down. It can be done verbally. The tone of this is so important. Like, it cannot be, well, I need to see you. I need to see better. So what you going to do better this year? That automatically puts the recipient on defense. It makes the recipient feel like, well, you don't feel like I may have done, or have I done? They start thinking these things. Did I do enough? Are you not pleased? So the language in these conversations matter. What areas do you feel like are an opportunity for you to improve on this year? And if I don't know, it's not an option. Whenever we talk on Thursdays for Teenage Thursday, my number one objective is to prompt you to stimulate dialogue with your team. I don't know is a scapegoat. It's a lazy lack of effort, limited thinking response that we are not to receive. Our job is to prompt, promote, encourage fluid and articulation in our kids' thoughts, because there will come a time where the only person who can advocate for them is them. That advocacy only happens through persons who have a level of esteem and comfort in expressing their feelings. So while I'm sitting here sharing these practical things with you, you may seem like that's not a big deal. Anybody can have those conversations. You are literally creating, when you do these exercises, you are creating compounded behavioral effects that give them an advantage in the long run. So there's a lot of complexities that it just seems like dialogue, but you're building character in the midst of having conversation. This doesn't cost anything. It doesn't cost money. It's not an after school activity. It's not an extra investment. It's time. Time is the only thing that it costs you. So what do you need to improve on? What is needed to improve upon the year for you this year? That's question number 2 that I want us to ask. And I think it's okay if these questions may take some time. Think about how you process things. Me, myself, I don't wing anything. When you guys meet me here on Thursday, I have studied. Typically, I have written down what I'm going to say. I don't follow it verbatim, but nothing about the work that I do is winged. When someone asks me to provide a prompt response, in the inside, I'm describing this because if this is your teen, I want you to feel how they may feel. In the inside, I feel like discombobulated. My thoughts aren't fluid. I feel like an insecurity in expressing the thought. I want to withdraw because I need time to process. So even in the moment of having these conversations, you may not get the response right then and there. I don't know is not a good enough response for me, but can I think about it? Can we come back? Or I'm going to give you the opportunity to come back when you thought it through. I'm okay with that. Those are the kinds of responses that would help to promote process thinking, which is the ability for a person to go and think through what you may have asked them. So if that is your teen, if you find that they thinking on their toes, maybe you don't get the most thorough response. You probably don't get the most. You may feel it's inadequate. You may feel it's unrepresentative of what you've taught them. Give them time to process it and give them time to write it down. So the areas of improvement or what went well, these things may not be able to be answered on the fly. That's the point that I wanted to make, and I think I drove that home. Okay, the third question that I want you to ask after we've done what went well, what can be improved, the last piece, and this is the bottom of the sandwich, how can I support you like in that change? When I meet college students all across the country, this year I've been to Washington State, Kansas, Florida, Georgia. I've been to New Hampshire, Indiana. I can't even recall all of them. When I ask these questions, what did you remember hearing as a child? What would you have liked to hear? What would you have liked to have heard as a child? Most of the responses are very similar. And the only thing that is communicating to me is that our children need to be affirmed by us. They want to be received, seen, and heard by us, the people who love them like their nuclear environment, their parents, their teachers, their mentors. And affirming can happen even in rejecting decisions and or behaviors that we don't agree with. So you can do both. Example, I'm really not pleased with your grades this year. I know you can do better. I know this was a virtual year. Here comes the affirmation piece. I know you to be astute. I've seen the results of when you study. You have a sharp mind. You have a genius about you that comes out when you apply it. That's affirmation and correction at the same time. So learning to practice language is so critical. Our kids need that from us. So when you get the feedback on how can I support you, they may not know. But if they say, I really would like for you to, and remember, their language is not going to be as skilled as ours would be. This is years of practice and probably years of saying things that we didn't mean, having to go back and apologize and refine language. So we're talking to a teenager here, so their response may not be as polished. They say, I really need you to get off my back a little bit. I need you to take what they're trying to communicate and transcribe that by asking deeper questions. What does that look like? Getting off your back a little bit. You may say, man, I feel like you always breathing down my neck. You be calling okay, so how else would you like to be held accountable? How else can I hold you accountable in that way? Like finding ways until they get the language out. I just want to know, I want you to, what may typically come out is I want you to trust that I'm going to make a good decision, that I'm in good hands and I'm going to do the right thing. There's a root to everything that they say, but you have to be the transcriber of the communication just by asking questions, not assuming, not drawing offense. In this, I always say, as a byproduct of being a great communicator, you are essentially teaching communication. As a byproduct, meaning as a result of you being intentional about your language, you are teaching your child to be intentional about their language as well. Everything that we do will become a byproduct of some type of behavior that they will soon exude. And so, in very simple forms, what we project on them sticks. I said this all summer 2020. Our children are a blank canvas, blank, white, pure. And then what we paint on them with our words, expectations, with how we respond in anger, with our frustrations, what we paint on them becomes the art. So we're responsible for what is being painted. And that is a lot of pressure. And I realize that. But asking your teen, how can I support you this year? And then hearing them, their feedback. You may have to process it too. But inviting you to be a part of their growth process. All of these questions can also be done in reverse. Ask them to lead the discussion for you. Let your teen ask you, what went well this year, Dad, for you? It's a great way to model what you're looking to instill. What went well for you, Auntie? What areas do you need to improve on, Godmommy? So allow the table to turn. We are always teaching. These conversations are a very basic way to start off the new year. I mentioned this earlier. If you have them, teach the science behind human behavior first and how change is sustained. When I did my research earlier today, the Time magazine reported last year there were 10 of the most common New Year's resolutions that were basically lost by 3 months into the new year. The first one was weight loss. The second one was stopping smoking. I couldn't find a way to say that. Improve time with my family. That was one on there. I can't remember the rest of them. But the reason why those were likely to fall off not even 2 quarters into the year is because while we may identify the goal, we have to identify the habit that supports the behavioral change to achieve the goal. If you do this exercise this year, this becomes your level of measure of focus for year 2023. Now I'm giving y'all some behind the scenes. Every year I write out my goals for the year. Under the goal, I write the habits that are going to be required of me to achieve the goal. I talked about this 2 weeks ago in one of my lives. I can't remember what it was called, but if you go 2 weeks back, it's there. I write the habits, the repeated patterns that my body memorizes. I write them that I want to achieve. At the end of the year, and I look at the goals that I achieved, it is likely that I have adapted those habits and have stuck with them through the duration of the year, which allowed me to achieve the goal. In the areas that I did not achieve the goal, the habits that I identified, I never adapted. So when you write these things down, it also becomes your measure of comparison is not the best word, but your tracker per se. I invite you to do this exercise with your teen, or if you have a classroom, you can do it as a class as well. These are great life skills that we have the privilege to teach our children. And those are the 3 conversations for today. Ooh, as y'all could tell, I got excited to teach today. This was good stuff. Listen, I can't have you here without telling you that you gotta go grab your pre-order of The Pursuit of Black Excellence for Teens. This is my latest project. It is a workbook designed to help students, teens, particularly Black teens at that, get really clear about who they are, what they want, and how they will use the life that they've been privileged to live, how they'll use it intentionally. And so this toolkit I'm excited about it because it's been created to do with parents. And I have a promo video that I definitely want you to take a peek at. In January of 2021, God gave me a vision to do a workbook series for teens to solve one problem, helping Black teens get clear on who they are and what they want to do with the life that they're so privileged to live. From that vision birthed The Pursuit of Black Excellence for Teens, a toolkit to support Black teens challenged with answering the questions: what am I interested in? What do I do well? And how do I plan to impact the world around me? The toolkit is broken into 3 collections: self-excellence, community excellence, and life excellence. With over 30 activities, journal prompts, quizzes, short activities, information on prominent figures, and historical learning opportunities, plus QR codes with supplemental learning videos, the workbook is a great tool for group learning within community organizations and school groups, or self-paced learning with parents and their teenaged children. If you are an educator, community leader, or parent invested in developing self-esteem, community engagement, career development, and global connectivity, this tool is for you. I only represent excellence, and I definitely mean that. Excellence is not perfection. It is high quality effort that you give at the capacity you have to give. And this workbook is essentially the tool that I'm using to exemplify that. And I want to bring it to your house. I want you to grab your pre-order for your team. You guys can do those activities together at thepursuitforteens.com. You can grab your pre-order there. Hey, Dwayne is in the house. Dwayne said, you can't change what you don't track. So true. And, as you are assessing how this year went for you, Hopefully, you stored the habits, the goals that you wanted to achieve in 2021. Go back and look at them. And the areas that you still desire to see improvement on, try to implement a way to adapt change, to adapt habits in the areas that you desire change in. Listen, I've kept you long enough. I try to stay under 30 minutes, but tonight was just too good. And I'd love to hear your feedback. I want to say thank you for joining me every Thursday for Teenage Thursday. I get excited about this stuff, as you see. It's a privilege to do the work that I do and to do what I love. I pray it's just as infectious to me, that it will also be to you, and that you would share it with someone who could use very practical tools to enhance the communication between their teen, whether it be at home or in the classroom. I'll see you next Thursday as our final Teenage Thursday for the year, because your girl need a break. I'll see you next Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're going to recap the whole year 2021. We're going to see what God been up to. I love you. There's nothing you could do about it. I'm Linnita Hosten, your favorite student success strategist.